has.
You know why I'm asking? Because it's not really related, but I've got Reckful on my mind. Is anyone familiar with this at all?
Yeah.
So
I saw the news. I didn't know who he was prior to today.
I didn't know who he was either. So guys, anyone listening, keep in mind I'm a terrible source for news on him. But I looked into him, and was he a World of Warcraft player? Is that his game? World of Warcraft? And he was really good, right? Because I was like, wow, how good was he, right? Like, I had this idea in my head that I put there myself that maybe people were pumping him up to be a hot shot, when in reality he was just one of many pros. No, dude, he was the man. I'm looking him up real quick. He was like the best player in the world year after year after year. He was ranked 1, it looks like, for 5 years in a row. He was the winner of the 2011 skill contest. He was the first 3,000 ranking on the planet. This guy was like, he was the man, from what I can tell. I'm not an expert in this game. And then after some success as a pro player, he had some real good times as a pro streamer. I think he had 115 million views on Twitch, which is a lot. That is a lot in the Twitch world. And this is just me in my own head. Like, I'm looking at it, and it looks like he's on the second half of his bell curve. I think he was 31 years old.
Yeah.
And if you look, I don't know if he's been streaming less or what happened, but he wasn't getting the same views on Twitch that he used to. That combined with, like, I think, did his sister kill himself, or older brother, or something like that? And then him, and it's just, or maybe I'm mixing it together with another story. But anyway, I just,
one of his siblings killed themselves.
I'm not sure about that. Do I have that right?
I'm not sure about that either. I'd verify. Yeah,
I've never heard that.
Oh well, look.
Yeah,
I told you I'm a terrible source. Don't get this. Oh no, I'm right. His older brother committed suicide.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it said that had a profound effect on his life and subsequent struggles with depression. It seems like if you put this like fame and success on a young person, very few people are coming out the other end of this intact. Some of them are monsters. Some of them are depressed. Like, it's rough to peak at like 26. That's a hard thing to deal with in life. And
you see that with child stars in Hollywood.
Yes.
Like, sometimes will peak when they're like 14, and it's like, we kind of liked you as the goofy middle school kid. You didn't really grow into who we want as a 21-year-old in this. And it's like, fuck. Like, right? I can see how kids get messed up. And all the nonsense that happens behind closed doors with child actors in Hollywood. Like, that's definitely a big part as well.
That can be, right? Like, it was the two Corys are in my head. I think I'm going 80s, and probably a lot of people don't know that story. But yes, sometimes there's all sorts of like casting couch craziness. Sometimes it's just the love and adoration that peaks at 14, and then they just never get again. And it seems like they're the luckiest people in the world. But then when you get to look at it in 15 years of hindsight, it's almost a curse. It's like a lottery winner, right? How many lottery winners live a comfortable life of happiness for the rest of it, for the rest of their time?
It's like an extreme high and super low, like a roller coaster in a way.
If you look at his like most recent, and I don't know all the story behind this, but if you just look at his 4 last tweets, he had one like 13 hours ago, which is like, they're really heartbreaking. He said, and you can tell from the way he's saying this, like he's in a very bad place, obviously. He said, I know I'll always be a little too crazy, and this is proof, but at least you'll never be bored. Will you marry me, Becca? And I assume that is maybe an ex of his. And he said, do not make her feel pressure to say yes. I am completely insane here. I have not seen her in 6 months. The reason for this post is I know she is the one I want forever, and I wanted her to know my commitment is real. And then an hour later, he said, I feel bad for anyone who has to deal with my insanity. And then said, please just know in these situations, the insane person does not feel in control of their actions. And that's the last thing he put out there. And it's like, that is dark.
That's pretty
really, really dark and sad.
It's just sad.
You it just goes to show, like, the grass isn't always greener. You know,
No.
you take somebody who's like a struggling Twitch streamer and you show them this guy's career, and they're gonna be like, oh my god, that guy's going to bed on cloud 9 every night. You know, he's just, oh man, my fucking, look at my numbers, look at my metrics, look at all this, and in reality, he's just sitting there like empty and heartbroken.
It's not even Twitch streamers. It's just the celebrity status in general.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to like Chris Cornell and Chester from Linkin Park. Both killed themselves in past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, huge fucking rock stars. They, you know, and they killed themselves before. Chris Cornell, I think, was in his 50s, and Chester, I think, was in his 40s. But it's like that whole thing. If you're doing something where you have this like responsibility, I guess, to entertain, it can weigh on you. And I mean, you guys probably know what I'm talking about a little bit. Sometimes you feel like maybe you're not doing your best work, or
Yeah.
you know, you're on a downward spiral 100%. Or something. So it's just one of those things. You don't really know about it unless you're in it, and from the outside looking in, it looks awesome. But then, you know, a lot of suicides for some reason.
Yeah, it's a fucking lot of pressure, I think, particularly at a young age, because you just say it's a lot at once. And I think it's a case of perspective. You see someone doing so well, and you see them and you think, wow, that must be great. And that's how I always looked up to larger creators. And I think, wow, how must that feel to have that level of influence and following? And then you get to that point and you're like, oh wow, I don't feel any different. And it's in fact, it's just this anxiety of, okay, when's this gonna be over? When are people gonna stop watching? How do I hold on to it? All these other questions about things that you may have said and done, and how that will be interpreted in the future, and what people are gonna think of you, and what your legacy is going to be, and all these complex questions that you're having in a time where most of your mates are coming out of university and going into their first jobs. It's just you can't grasp it in a way.
I was incredibly lucky on my ride. I had a couple things working for me. One was age. Right? I started my YouTube channel, I think I was 36. So I had like I don't know, you're just a little older, a little more mature, a little more perspective on this whole ride. I always expected it to be a short-term gig, right? I went into this thing. Well, no, I went into it thinking it'd be nothing. But when I saw that it was becoming a thing, like a source of income, and I don't know, I knew it was a ride that would I thought it would last 3 years. It lasted way longer than I thought it did. But I always thought it was going to be a short-term gig, so it wasn't a surprise to me. The other was a support system, right? I had my wife there, you know, to sort of keep me grounded, and kids, which always seemed more important than anything that I was doing online, right? You know, it's like the whole world's coming at you through your monitors, and it's blasting you, and it feels like that things are crumbling or things are exploding. But whatever it is, things aren't normal, and it's a lot to deal with on the upside and the downside. And then you step away from the monitor, and you're like pushing your daughter around in a laundry basket. And it's a different thing than maybe a 19-year-old who has only this. And the last thing, and it made it easy on me, I think, was I had a second act. You know, as my YouTube channel hit the second half of its bell curve, Woodycraft hit the first half, the upswing. And I mean, it's a cushion to land into. And it gives you, you know, like as it all is ending, I had a new start. And then when that ended, well, I had some experience ending already. You know, it was a real lucky thing.
Yeah, I think stability and security is a really good point, because especially when you're young, it's kind of hard to get perspective. And you're thinking, okay, what do I have to fall back on when this all goes wrong? And so having a second gig is really important, which is one of the reasons why I finished university, even with my YouTube channel. Because I obviously am aware that this will not persist forever, and I didn't want to have absolutely nothing to fall back on. But it's still a lot of stress, because you're still coming down in some way or form eventually. And so I think to have the sort of security that family can bring, sort of social supports in a way, I think that's kind of different, and that kind of outweighs financial supports in certain, I guess I'm getting the words now because I'm tired, but yeah, it outweighs certain drawbacks. I think having the feeling of security coming from places outside of the online world